on this episode of Edge of the Web.
It's so critical to make sure that in those first few seconds somebody spends on your website, you are delivering the type of content that they're looking for in the context that will make it easiest for them to consume.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
So welcome back to The Edge. Hey, it's always great to be able to come back around and do another Edge of the Web show. Thanks so much for joining us. Every week we provide you latest marketing trends and digital marketing, as well as marketing influencers from around the planet. The show's actually being produced by Edge Media Studios, located in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Check out our most recent shows, actually all the shows, over at edgeofthewebradio.com. You'll be able to see all the audio, see all the videos, read the show posts, as well as all of the links to all the different sites that of the guests that we interview, as well as you have an audio player right there. You can also check us out at iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Player FM, iHeartRadio, all the podcast places. So that's where we are, and that's what we're doing on a regular basis. The show's actually produced or sponsored by the title sponsor, Site Strategics, our digital marketing agency focused on the agile marketing methodology. So if you're interested in what that is and what that can be for you, just give us a call at 877-SEO for web. That's 877-736-4932 for those who don't want to translate that on the phone. To my left, well, actually, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Aaron Sparks, CEO of Site Strategics. How we doing, guys? It's like I could hear them or something like that.
I don't know.
And to my left, we have Tom Broadbeck, the Director of Digital Media here at Site Strategics. Sir?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, you sound very bass right there.
Why, thank you. I've been working on it.
You've been working at the vocal cords.
I got corrective surgery.
Okay, well,
Lowered the voice.
I'm creeped out now on that. So let me just introduce our guest.
I don't know what you say.
Well, I went there, but I kind of got uncomfortable as I went down there. So we'll just pull back. Not to make anybody else uncomfortable, our guest, Chris Dayley, is on the phone. Or actually, he's on Zoom. Chris, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
You are more than welcome, more than welcome. Hey, Chris, it's great to be able to have you here. We're going to be talking about some conversion rate optimization here. So let's find out what's hot off the presses in today's digital marketing news.
I was very excited to start my reportings.
This week's trending topics.
All right, so we always appreciate the live stream audience. You can pick us up at Periscope as well as Facebook live stream. If you have any questions for us or our guest, feel free to throw in there, and we'll certainly pick them up as we do the show. From Mike Blumenthal over at MikeBlumenthal.com, right?
This is Blumenthal.
Blumenthals.com. Google stops counting anonymous reviews. Tom, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so he wrote a quick article here. It looks like, I don't know if anybody's ever read a lot of the Google reviews, but a lot of them were anonymous. It would just say a Google user said, and then the review would be there. And so those were considered anonymous reviews. And so Google has apparently removed those from your review count. So if you had reviews, people are seeing the review counts drop from this. And so if you had a drop in your Google review count, that could be the reason why you had some anonymous reviews.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to know, and I think this just goes towards Google kind of closing the doors on anybody that does not have a Google account, and there's that next level of user authentication.
Yeah,
right?
a little further down the article, it says they were able to confirm that Google didn't throw them away. They're just no longer counting anonymous reviews and from a Google user and the total shown in the knowledge panel. So when you search company name, over there it'll say there's 55 reviews about company X. There could be 75 reviews, but 20 of them are anonymous reviews. But
that blows.
You can still see them, but they just that number right there in the knowledge panel is reflective minus the anonymous reviews.
Got it. So, any interest in Google reviews for you, sir?
You bet. So reviews are a fascinating thing for us to think about, especially in terms of conversion rates.
Yep.
When I'm talking about website conversion rates or phone conversion rates, and especially even your organic conversion rates, whether or not you get somebody to click, reviews have a major, major impact on conversions. We've run a lot of tests with particularly e-commerce clients of ours to see, are people more likely to buy if you have good reviews? Are they more likely to buy if you have some negative reviews in there? Are they more likely to buy if you have more reviews or less reviews? And it's really fascinating. There's not really a best practice to say the more reviews and the more positive reviews or the more negative reviews you have, the better. But I did just run a test for one of my clients that sells fashion-related products, and we ran a test where we displayed all of their reviews at the bottom of the page. We ran another version where we only displayed their 3 most positive reviews. And then we ran another version where we displayed their 2 most positive and their 1 most negative review. And the version that performed the best actually was the one that only showed 3 reviews, that showed their 2 most positive and their 1 negative review.
Really?
So that was really fascinating to just see how reviews influence user behavior on the web. It absolutely influences user behavior. And so this move from Google, I think, is also very interesting. I think it lends more credibility to having personable reviews that people can relate to, attach a face and a name to.
Interesting. How did you how did you label that, I guess, in your test with the negative review, where you're like, here's 2 good ones, and then here's our negative one, just to show how transparent we are? How did that work out with that third test?
Yeah. And so what we did, this is on an e-commerce website, and so at the top of the product page, we showed how many total reviews they had. So whatever, 250 total reviews. When you clicked on it, it took you down to just those 3 reviews, and then there was like a load more reviews if you wanted to.
Got it.
But it was also very interesting to note that showing less reviews in general performed better. So it's very easy for people to feel inundated with tons and tons of positive reviews. And the fact of the matter is, I don't know the percentage, but I would say probably 75% of your reviews are just people saying, cool product. And that's what I found is that those are not very helpful reviews for people making decisions. They want to hear somebody who's taking the time to lay out the details, lay out why they're leaving a positive review or why they're leaving a negative review. So that's one other thing I would add to this whole reviews commentary is getting people to leave detailed reviews, in my experience, has more positive effect than just getting a ton of positive 1-line reviews.
Yeah, it's more authentic. And I think users are trained now more than ever before to take negative reviews with a grain of salt, right? And it also looks transparent, like you're talking about, is that the company's not just chumming the waters with all positivity, because that's just fake.
Right. Absolutely.
Excellent. So another story here from Search Engine Land from Jenny Marvin. Google AdWords new responsive search ads actually show 3 headlines. Check this out. The new ad format, now in beta, offers more real estate and dynamically combines an advertiser's headline and descriptions. So we finally have more real estate here. Set up one ad with multiple headlines and a couple other descriptions, and Google will start testing combinations dynamically to serve the best combination deemed most likely to achieve the advertiser's stated goals. You can also get more real estate, obviously, than a standard text ad, and this is on the mobile space right now, but you certainly can appreciate it going to the desktop. As a part of a continuing to let machine learning models do the work of ad creative optimization. And we saw that through Facebook, a particular different model of all the different variations of ads that it will come up with to be able to find and test the best combination. Now we're allowing the ad robots to be able to come up with all the different combinations and find the best solution. Now we know that's good from a grunt work standpoint and testing methodology, but my Lord, doesn't it start taking away the creativity and some of the uniqueness of ads?
Yeah, I'm not an AdWords professional, but would it make sense to use this for a lot of those short-term phrases? So, like, we have a client who sells basketball goals, and so if you're targeting that keyword basketball goals, but you also want that same ad to appear for someone who's researching about basketball goals, and so there's like best basketball goals for 2018 type of search phrase, and you're still targeting that short tail keyword, and so then you can have 3 different. Is that the way? Is that why you would use this?
Yes, you take a particular test variable and then put that. What it looks like, they're utilizing all the phrases of all the headlines, but they're not going to mix up things. They're going to be putting maybe one variable against this. And having multiple iterations and basically it's an automated test, right? Gotcha. So you're going to have so for example, advertisers can set up as many as 15 headlines and 4 descriptions in a responsive search ad. So you got 15 headlines, 4 descriptions, and it starts rotating around all the permutations of that. So they got to make sense. They got to be able to fit together. But it's putting all the combinations. Anybody, I don't know. Somebody do the math out there. There's a lot of combinations there. 15 plus 4 times all. Never mind. But you can certainly see that we're trusting more and more to the automation and the AI to be able to increase value. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, so I love this. This is basically, like you said, this is an automated multivariate test, and so. Your comment of does this take away the creativity from advertisers? I actually think it requires even more creativity from advertisers because you need to think through all of the combinations that you might end up with in your headlines here and think through. So what I encourage my testers over here at Disruptive to do is think through some drastically different ideas. I mean, you don't just want to churn out 15 different variations of the exact same idea. That's not going to provide you or Google with any kind of meaningful data. But this can be really powerful if you want to test 15 different off-the-wall combinations. Like, hey, let's test a version where we put our price in our headline. Let's test a version where we don't have our price in our headline. Let's test a version where we have a call to action in our headline, and one where we just have a description of what our services are or what our product is. That's where I find the most meaningful learnings from tests like this is let's throw a bunch of things, a bunch of random different ideas off the wall, and then Google's going to churn them all together. And you're right, you do get more. You do get a ton of variable combinations. Every time you add in another variation, it's basically that number squared. So if you have 3 headlines, you have 9 possible combinations. If you have 4 headlines in there, you have 16 possible combinations. 5 is 25. So this is the more combinations you put in there, you get up to 10 to 15 different headlines in there. You're talking about hundreds of possible combinations. And the beautiful thing is you would probably never be able to do that kind of a test on your website unless you got millions of visitors. The beautiful thing is Google gets so much freaking traffic, they can test that amount of combinations for you. So this is a way I think for marketers to really accelerate their learnings on the web.
Yep. Now it pushes the envelope of creativity so you can think out of the box. You're absolutely right. But I'm sure Google is going to throttle back the bandwidth of testing due to budget, and it's going to certainly suggest, hey, well, you get even more tests with this dynamic combination if you open up the purse strings a little bit more as well.
Absolutely.
Not inferring anything to Google, but they're in business to do that. From Search Engine Journal, our last article here is from Matt Southern. We want to give a rest in peace. StumbleUpon shuts down after 16 years. It kind of stumbled and never got back up, right?
Nice.
Dad joke. So content delivery platform StumbleUpon is shutting down June 30th after 16 years in operation. Launched in 2002, before the days of Facebook and Twitter, StumbleUpon was how many users stumbled on new content that weren't directly searching for. And moreover, the web publishers had the power to be a significant source of traffic in its heyday, as well as inbound link building. Yeah. So there was a huge tactic for that influx of link juice from StumbleUpon. So co-founder Garrett Camp describes how the web has changed since StumbleUpon launched in 2002. Quote, since starting StumbleUpon, the number of people with internet access has grown nearly 10 times, and mobile phones and social media have changed our lives. The number of platforms to share or host content has increased significantly. We still need better tools to help us filter through the exploding amount of content on the web and find signals within the noise. We've we've learned here at StumbleUpon that while simplicity and serendipity is important, so is enabling contextual curation. So that's a very poetic quote there.
Yeah, use serendipity, contextual.
I'm saying that's like 50 words in one sentence. So thoughts on StumbleUpon in memoriam, Chris? What do you think?
Well, definitely a moment of silence for that. I got my start in digital marketing doing SEO, and I remember the heyday of using StumbleUpon for link juice.
Yeah,
that was one of the easiest and I think most commonly used SEO tactics. But I loved the comment there that you were reading. He used the words contextual curation, which I'm not even exactly sure what he meant by that. But to me, that brings out I think the idea of context on the web is huge. Yeah. And if you can give people the type of content they're looking for and in the context that they are searching for it, I mean, on your own website, if you can discover what kind of content are they looking for, how much content are they looking for, what is the context under which they want to see this content? Are they coming to my website for information? Are they coming to my website to search for something they already know that they need? And so they don't want a ton of content. They just want a little bit of context to say that we know what we're doing. Right. I think that's a really fascinating point that he brought up that merits a lot of thought.
So that contextual curation, you think he was multivariate testing his word usage there?
Maybe. I hope so.
That was pretty rich there. All right. Tell you what we're not going to test is changing our format on newsletters that we send out of Edge of the Web, because we're getting continual new subscribers setting up and getting like that. That was pretty fun, right?
We should be testing that.
Oh, well, I mean, we're not testing the format. Well, never mind. If you want to hear what's going on the show, what's coming up, who we talk to, and some of the news stories like we just covered today, sign up for the newsletter over at edgeofthewebradio.com, and you can be able to submit right there your information at the header. You can also text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, and be able to sign up right there, and your email will not be used for anything else but receiving digital gold. That's what it is, right? That's the test.
Bitcoin.
It's digital bitcoins. Bitcoin news. All right, never mind. All right, so follow all the featured trending topics over at edgeofthewebradio.com. So let's now deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Chris Dayley, VP of Testing and Site Optimization with Disruptive Advertising.
All right, so Chris, you had the deep voice guy introducing you, and we want to introduce you to our audience. Chris is a longtime digital marketer with a passion for helping businesses learn what their users want on their website through psychology-based testing and analytics. I love that. That's a sentence that makes sense. He started Daily Conversion in 2014 and then merged with Disruptive Advertising, where he's the VP of Site Testing and Optimization. That must be a cool gig.
It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, I started my agency, Daily Conversion, like you said, about 4 years ago. And actually, at the time, I had no clue what I was even trying to do. I was looking for a solution while I was working in-house for a company. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find the solution I was looking for to help me run effective A/B tests on my own website. So I started the company that I was looking for. When I started, it was just kind of a, maybe a lifestyle gig. I wasn't necessarily your typical entrepreneur. I wasn't setting out to change the world and to build a huge company. But I realized, about a year into it, that is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a company. I wanted to be able to affect a lot more change than I could on my own. And so, when I met the owner of Disruptive Advertising, there was many, many, many reasons it made a lot of sense for us to merge businesses. And so, over the last 2 years, we've grown from 25 employees to over 100 now. And that has introduced all kinds of new opportunities for me to grow personally, mm-hmm. And for me to expand the way that I'm able to influence businesses and online metrics. So it's been a really, really wild ride.
From a conversion standpoint, and that it is one singular tactic, or I should say marketing tactic, that is different than broadcast, different than the social channels, different than the SEO channels, different. I mean, there's inbound, outbound, there's all these different wakes that you're making, but the conversion rate optimization is unto itself a unique skill set and a unique discipline, because one, digital marketers by and large don't practice it. They don't know either the tools, or they don't know how much it means to any site that actually is needing leads and needing traffic. You could literally make a 20%, 30% increase in revenue just paying attention to how you convert users, right?
Are you there, Chris?
Oh,
we lost Chris.
But we can talk briefly about that. So as Chris makes his way back over to the show, I mean the point is that conversion itself is a like I said, not a regularly practiced discipline. You're dealing with a heck of a lot of variables. Just think about any given page and all the artwork, the conversion buttons, the graphics themselves, even to the degree of where the eyes actually are pointing on a screen, either away from the button or towards the button, have to do with conversion. And that actually is a substantial change as you find the different elements to be able to test. So on top of everything else, building a website, there he is, building a website that the foundations that you lay for a website should be a testable foundation. They should not be, hey, here's all the whiz-bang great graphics, and then we'll figure out how to test that later. If you go into the hypothesis, all right, there he is. How are you doing, Chris?
Sorry about that. I lost connection for a minute.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I started to monologue here, so no worries, Chris. As I was jabbering here, I kind of found a particular point regarding conversion rate is that you can always execute conversion rate optimization on existing websites, but foundationally, building a website with a conversion testing platform, right, that you're thinking ahead before even launching it, this is what we're going to test, is really the optimal model, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that I have seen companies that have started testing after the fact, and that's how most companies get started. You've got to start somewhere. However, I have also been involved in many companies that have tested from the ground up, or in other words, before they even launch their website, they are thinking about their website in terms of a test. I think one of the biggest mistakes that marketers and businesses make in today's world is, when people are building a new website, here's how, like the two ways that most typically are used for building a new site. Number one, you'll go to a design agency and say, build me something that looks awesome, right? You guys know design, so just build me something that's going to work. The other way that most businesses will do it is they'll look up their competitor's website and just copy it, right? So whatever they're doing must be working, so let's just do what they're doing. The fact of the matter, though, is every audience is different. And design agencies, I'm sorry to break it to them, design agencies do great work. The stuff looks great, but they have just as little clue as you do as to what your audience is going to respond well to. I have a client that just went through a massive website redesign. They spent about $350,000 with a big design agency to basically restyle their website. They launched it and nothing happened. That's not the worst thing to happen. At least their conversion rate.
Something happened. They were out $350,000.
Yeah, right. They're $350,000 in the hole here, but conversion rates didn't go up. Nothing improved on their website. And so what they realized from that is, hey, we spent all this money on design, but we didn't even know what to be thinking about. We didn't know what to be looking at. And so if you can start a website, if you can start building your website, and instead of saying, hey, let's just copy our competitor, say, hey, okay, let's create 3 different versions of this site. Let's create one where we copy our competitor, one maybe where we take some fancy new design concept, and then one where we throw things up against the wall and challenge our assumptions. And maybe we make something that we don't think our audience will like. And then, you know what? Let's test them all. And that'll kind of point us in the right direction from there. And most often, I mean, I've been running tests now for a little over 6 years. And even with all of the tests, I did an estimation of how many tests I've run. And I believe it's somewhere between 700 and 800 tests that I've run at this point. Even after running 700 to 800 tests, I am still wrong at least 50% of the time when I guess which test version is going to win. And so even with all the conversion expertise in the world, it is impossible to predict what your audience is going to want to see on your website. So it is so critical. If you can build your website from the ground up with testing in mind, you're way ahead of your competition at that point.
Absolutely, and that is the tip of the spear when it comes down to, honestly, revenue generation and return on investment of any type of website. If you're not disciplining conversion rate optimization and not continually trying to test, right, then you're not effectively trying to move the needle on your return, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, I tell my clients, I mean, if you're not constantly testing on your website, you're wasting traffic.
Yeah.
Not that you're not going to be generating revenue off of it, but every visitor you get to your website gives you an opportunity to learn something, to try something new and to learn. And if you're not taking those opportunities to learn, I mean, you're really falling behind other people on the web that might be testing. And so it's critical that you get tests running on your website as soon as possible. And again, like we said before, if that can be right from the get-go, that's great. If not, then as soon as you can possibly get things started, it is always my recommendation.
Excellent. Well, Chris, if you wouldn't mind, I have to make a segue here for our title sponsor to make a quick advertisement. They got to pay the bills here. So if I could let you know that Site Strategics is the title sponsor of Edge of the Web and wanted to share with us listeners a great special offer. We provide digital marketing strategies to our clients regularly, and it goes without saying that we're constantly asked the question about return on investment, just like we were talking about just a minute ago. I mean, that's truly what you should be focusing on. So we actually deploy a digital marketing ROI report, and we're actually offering a 30% discount on that. You can learn your digital strengths, weaknesses, and threats. The entire report delivers a comprehensive image of your existing performance in the areas of SEO, content, marketing, social media, and SEM, while allowing the Site Strategics production team full insight into the areas of opportunity and growth. So if you want to be able to drop right in there, have a conversation with us, see if this digital marketing report is something that you could use, just go ahead and submit your information right there. There's no obligation, and you can be off to the races learning your ROI success. All right, sorry for the gratuitous plug there, Chris. I want to slow everything down for a second and actually pull back to our audience that may not know what conversion rate optimization is, or CRO. Can you kind of lay out to our audience what conversion rate optimization is and its kind of basic tenets?
You bet. And I always hate calling it CRO because people always confuse it with SEO. CRO, SEO, it all sounds the same. And to make matters worse, I used to do SEO, and so it's very easy to confuse.
Are you like a former SEO? I mean, they're SEO anonymous.
Yeah, right. I know. So conversion rate optimization, or as I like to refer to it, website testing. Website testing is the way that I describe it to my clients is it is learning what your audience wants to see on your website. And the goal of learning what they want to see on your website is increasing conversion rates. The way that you increase conversion rates is by learning what your audience wants. So it's just kind of this continual circle. And so the way that conversion rate optimization, or the way that website testing works, is and I always recommend with my clients, you always want to have a question in mind. I call it a business question. So something you want to learn about your audience. So we'll just take a standard homepage, for example. A standard homepage is going to have a hero banner on it with your main offer. So a pretty standard business question is something like, what should we have on our hero banner, right? That's a very good open-ended business question where there's pretty much no way to lose on this test, because even if your existing website is the best hero banner, you still learn something. But the way that you do it is you say, okay, I want to learn what the optimal hero banner is for my audience. So right now I have my hero banner that showcases my latest Memorial Day sale, 75% off. I'm going to create another version of my homepage banner that instead of featuring my Memorial Day sale, maybe I talk about my most popular product. So I have a version B that, version A is my existing website. Version B is going to be my most popular product. Maybe version C is a testimonial from one of my customers or something like that with a call to action. So I've got version A, my existing site, version B, my most popular product, version C, my client review. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an A/B testing tool. There's lots of them out there. Google Optimize is a free tool that Google offers. We use BWO for a lot of our clients, or Optimizely, or Adobe Target. There's tons of these A/B testing tools out there that you can use. And you use that to basically split traffic between all of your different versions. So if I have 3 versions of my homepage, I'm going to send 33% of people to my existing site, 33% to my most popular product, 33% to my review, and then I run them all at the same time. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to get a real accurate measure of how these 3 different homepages perform during the same time frame.
Right.
Because what most companies do, whenever I talk to companies and ask them if they've done A/B testing in the past, almost every company says yes.
Really?
And I'll say, "Oh, tell me about that. What test did you run?" And they'll say, "Oh, well, when we launched our new site, we launched it and then we compared our conversion rates to what they were last week, and that's how we knew if our new site did better or worse than our old site." And that's not an A/B test at all. And you guys laugh because you guys know how silly it is.
Yep.
But most people think that's an A/B test. And the reason that's not a good A/B test is because how do you know conversion rates weren't going to go up this week anyways? How do you know that because weather is great, people are now shopping for swimming suits more, and so
There's too many
rates
variables.
are just going to go up? Or because you're a B2B business and there was a hurricane in Texas, nobody from Texas is going online to buy your products, so your conversion rates tanked. There's all kinds of things that happen with our conversion rates on a day-to-day basis. Right. And one of the reports I love giving to my clients is I'll pull their conversion rates by day and show them what their average conversion rates are on any given day of the week. And without fail, you're going to have different conversion rates every single day of the week. Monday, you might have your highest conversion rates. Friday, you might have your lowest conversion rates. Maybe the weekend, you don't get any conversions. But there's just conversion rates are constantly fluctuating. The web is a living, breathing thing. And so the only way to get good, reliable data in an A/B test is to run all of your versions during the same time period with the same traffic.
Right. Yeah, but you also have to establish that baseline first, and you have to look at it from a scientific methodology by isolating the variables. And you're absolutely right. It's ludicrous thinking that a test was launching a brand new website because the entire environment changed. It's not testing to be able to increase incrementally. It's okay, we were red over here, green over here. Evidently, everybody likes green, so A/B. It doesn't make sense. Anyway,
exactly.
So can that's a big mistake that people assume is a conversion rate test. What other big mistakes that websites make that could be maybe quickly corrected to improve their results?
Yeah. So one of the things I see almost all the time is companies thinking that because they understand their customer persona, they understand what their audience wants on their website. So what I mean by this is, I know that my target audience is females between the ages of 25 and 50, stay-at-home moms. They're very active on Instagram and Facebook, and they have 1 kid. Therefore, because I know that this is my target audience and they like these other kinds of websites, I know that they'll like my site if it looks like these other websites. It's a huge, huge mistake. And I see companies do that all the time. I'll say, well, how did you decide what to put on your website? How did you decide what, going back to the homepage hero banner, how did you decide what homepage hero banner you're going to put? Oh, well, we have a lot of data on that. We already know what our customer demographic is. And so we know that they respond well to sales. We know that they are women. And so we've got this homepage hero banner that is our latest sale and has a picture of a woman on it. And that is just a huge mistake. It's a bunch of BS. It's this slippery slope of, because I know one thing, I know everything. And that is not the case at all.
Right.
Because yes, that might be your audience and that might be your demographic. And in the context of your website, in the context of your product, maybe they don't want to see your latest discount. Maybe they're still trying to figure out what your product even is. And so instead of showing them your deals, maybe you need to educate them on what the product is. Maybe instead of education, maybe they already know what the product is. Maybe it's a baby bottle and they already know what the baby bottle is. And so instead of educating them, you just need to show them the different models that you have. They just want to see the pictures of the products. Or maybe they need to know that maybe the most important thing for them to know is that you offer free shipping or money back guarantee, but you don't know that. Most businesses think that their audience cares about everything that they possibly offer and they want to hear all that information all the time.
Right.
And so, a lot of e-commerce companies, for example, are going to be putting all of their products on their homepage. I ran a test for a client of mine that they told me, we know that our clients are coming from Instagram. Therefore, we designed an Instagram style homepage that has endless scrolling. You just keep scrolling and it keeps loading products and it goes from one category to the next, so that if you don't see a product that you like, then you scroll down and you get a different category. And, and their logic seems to make sense on the surface, except that it doesn't. Because when we ran the test, we tested a version of their homepage that instead of having an infinite scrolling homepage, we limited the number of products that we showed. In fact, we tested 8 different versions of their homepage.
Oh, wow.
With fewer and fewer products and different categories of products.
Yep.
And out of those 8 different versions that were shorter than their original, 6 of them increased revenue to the tune of like $25,000 in increased revenue in a week.
Oh, wow.
By removing products from their homepage. And so that immediately debunked this myth that because people are coming from Instagram, they want an Instagram style homepage.
But
it's just not true.
And I mean, your background in psychology. The point is that they're coming from an environment and they've made a decision to go inquire upon one product. As soon as they get there, if there's a cacophony, there's a word for you, of different images, you're disrupting. I mean, you're not disrupting. You're creating new chaos where they were actually on a decision path to find a solution from that Instagram environment. So you're right. It's not matching the experience. You have to find the buyer's journey. The buyer's journey from Instagram is, out of many, one. Got to match that one. Got to get them into that more narrow focus, right?
Yeah, and you need to understand also the buyer funnel, right? We typically assume that everybody is at the bottom of the funnel that comes to our website. They're ready to buy right now, and that may or may not be the case. It might be the case if you are Apple and you sell an iPhone and you just know that people want your product. Right. So everyone that comes to your website is ready to buy. Which is why it's a mistake to try to copy Apple's website, because guess what? People don't just want your product. People are not coming to your website with the same intent that they have going to Apple's website. And so trying to copy Apple is just a huge mistake, but I see companies do that all the time. But yeah, I mean, so when somebody comes to your website, you need to learn what stage of the funnel are they in. When they come to my home page, they're probably at a different stage of the funnel than they are on my product page.
Yep.
And so maybe my homepage needs to be more focused on giving some very high level details and driving them into the funnel instead of trying to sell them on the homepage or getting them to add to their cart on my homepage. They might not be ready for that, or maybe they are. Again, but this is where it's so important to test, because I have seen companies where putting an add to cart button on the homepage has a huge increase in revenue for them. Which is totally counterintuitive. I would have never thought that would have worked, but their audience was already educated when they got to their homepage. So again, that's where you need to try different approaches. Your homepage, what kind of information do people need? What are the value propositions that people need to see on the homepage? Yep. Like, is it more important for them to know that I have free shipping and a sale, or is it more important for them to know that I have an all-natural GMO free whatever product? What's the most important thing for them to know at that stage of the funnel? And so you've got to just lay aside all of your assumptions and lay aside this idea that we know what our audience wants because we know who they are.
Well said, sir. I mean, that you're giving. There's so many options to look at from conversion rate. You can kind of get into analysis paralysis of seeing so many different things. So you do have to kind of start your journey on some basics, right? So there's a couple basics that I'm sure you would suggest. But first thing out of the gate is carousel images, sliders. Yes or no?
Yes and no.
Oh, see.
So I
thought I had him there.
I was under the opinion for a long, long time that carousel images and sliders were bad.
Yeah.
And I was under that opinion because they move. And movement on the web is typically bad because anytime something moves, it's confusing to people. It causes anxiety because it changes the entire website experience. Something just changed. I don't know what that last banner said. So now I'm going to read this new banner. Oh, yeah, it's changed again. I didn't even have time to read it. To me, I was like, well, that's an obvious cause of anxiety. That's got to be bad.
Yep.
But you know what? I have run that test hundreds of times with varying results. Sometimes carousel images on the homepage, or these rotating banners work exceptionally well. And there's not even a hard and fast rule. It's not like, well, if you have a lot of products, then have a rotating banner.
Right.
That's not the case.
Was there any correlation to industry?
It can be related to industry. It can be based on where they came from before they got to your website. It could be just based on who your demographic is. Again, and again, there's not a hard, fast rule there. It's not like, well, don't do it for old people because old people are really finicky on the web. I'm just as liable to make those assumptions.
If your audience are cats, you need to have that type of continual disruption, that continual, they love that stuff. All right, fine. So earlier this year, you spoke at Social Media Marketing World. Fantastic. You talked about split testing. So what was that experience like at Social Media Marketing World?
I love Social Media Marketing World. So this was actually my second year speaking there. So, I was invited back, fortunately, and I love the team over there because they just put on a great show. This is not a conference where you can pay for a speaking position.
Right.
They go and they organically find all of their speakers. They try to curate the very best expertise across a variety of industries. And so it's a conference where people are coming hungry to learn. And I just absolutely love and highly endorse the conference. My experience there, so I actually was giving a workshop. So it was a 90-minute workshop, if you can imagine 90 minutes of hearing my voice incessantly talking. And what I was talking through was specifically how to identify the best areas of opportunity for testing on your website.
Right.
Because you just talked about, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. When you start testing on your website, it's like, oh my gosh, there's everything. I need to test the headline. I need to test the button color. I need to test the button text. I need to test my images and the sizes.
It's like whack-a-mole.
I need to test the flow through the website. There's just an endless amount of things that you could test on your website.
Sure.
And so what I was talking through was the 6 areas that I have found have the biggest impact on conversion rates. And those 6 areas are where I recommend every business start their testing. And so the 6 areas that I walked through in my workshop were the value proposition that you highlight on each page of your website. So what value propositions should you highlight? How many should you highlight on each page of your website? That's a fairly easy test to run because all you're doing is swapping out content. I talked about the call to action that you have on each page of your site. What call to action should you have? Like I mentioned, should I have add to cart on my homepage, or should I have view categories, or should I have view products? What should I be telling people to do? Again, that's a fairly easy test to run. You might just be switching out the destination URL on a button, or you could actually be switching out the whole entire freaking offer. I mean, it just depends on what your call to action is on a page. So we got value proposition, we got call to actions on a page. Then we have content. This is one that SEO people love talking about because content is a really big deal in the SEO world.
Yep.
Right. And there's a very interesting balance. There's a very interesting intersection between SEO and CRO. This is where those two, those 2 words are going to blow your mind. But
it's a marriage. It's like peanut butter and chocolate, man.
Yeah, right. I know you got to talk about. And so, you've got SEO where you want content that's relevant on your site, and you've got CRO, you want the right amount of content. And so this is actually a great thing for SEO people to understand and to test is, okay, here's the SEO content that I need. And now let me test what happens when I put it on there.
Yep.
I'm adding all this SEO content. Does it affect conversion rates at all? Sometimes when I add content to a website, nothing happens, which tells me people don't care. They're not even reading the content.
Yep.
So if it benefits Google and my users don't care, then it's a win. Let's put it on there. Well, sometimes I might put new content on a page and conversion rates go down. And that's where SEO people, it can really cause it's actually a really good thought exercise to go, how much am I willing to sacrifice on conversion rates to get better web rankings, right? If this content helps my organic rankings and hurts my conversion rates, what is the right balance there? And that is a really interesting thought process. And then, of course, the best and the ideal solution is, hey, I added the content, it helps my rankings, and it helped my conversion rates. That's just a win-win. But that doesn't happen very often. And so content is a really kind of a politically tricky thing to test, but it's also really fun. So those are the first three.
All right.
You had a question.
No, keep on going.
So we have call to action, value proposition, content. Those are things you can add to your site.
Yep.
Then we have distractions. So you talked about going to a website and there's just a cacophony of things happening. Well, testing distractions is testing what happens if I remove this thing from my website. I talked about the homepage test where we removed products.
Right.
That was a distraction test. We were testing, are these products helping or hurting conversion rates? If they're hurting conversion rates, then they are a distraction. If they're helping conversion rates, then they're a positive thing that we want to keep on the site.
Right.
So distractions is a big deal. That they're very easy tests to run usually because you're removing things from the site and seeing what happens. The next category is anxiety. So I talked about anxiety being like, hey, a rotating banner could cause anxiety because it could cause someone to have to reevaluate the entire website experience.
Mouse trails, tracking the mouse, the little sparkles of the mouse, and
yes,
pop-ups
exactly.
and all that crap that actually takes you away from what that path is. Absolutely. Sorry, I just wanted to.
We're having a pop-up that says, caution, your computer may be infected by a virus. Like that's immediately anxiety.
As well, interstitials. I'm sorry to stop here, but the interstitial ads, right? I mean, those things are supposed to be great converters, but if you don't test it, you're not going to be able to know whether that's really a good converter or not, right? I'm sorry. Keep on going.
Yes, and you bring up a good point with the interstitials. They do cause anxiety, and you need to figure out, is it good anxiety or bad anxiety? It causes anxiety no matter what,
right? Because
you're interrupting somebody's website experience. Anytime you're interrupting, it causes anxiety because it's like, wait, I was doing this one thing and now they're asking me to do something else. However, when I get an interstitial that's like 50% off your purchase today if you give us your email address, that's good anxiety. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm glad they interrupted me. I'm glad they stopped me and gave me this great offer. If they're interrupting me saying, hey, you might be interested in this other offer that's not relevant to what you were just looking at, that might be really frustrating to me, and I might just leave the whole website because I'm so pissed off. So yeah, you want to test because you want to understand what happens when I put this on the site. Do people like it, or is it killing my conversion rates? Then the final thing. Go ahead.
Let me ask you one thing before we get to that final point. The society on the online society, by and large, has changed their behavior. They get more annoyed. They are less patient with sites nowadays, aren't they?
Absolutely. So in fact, they've done some psychological studies and found that on a new website you haven't been to before, the average person gives 2 to 3 seconds of attention. So you literally have 2 to 3 seconds to convince someone to stay on your website.
And the annoyance factors, those dissonance, those things. I mean, the new media audience is training themselves. If they are even their subconscious is not enjoying that experience, they'll punch out very quickly. And I mean, we're in this consumption age where even audio and video all have to affect a positive tone very, very quickly, or I mean, people just push away with their clicks, right?
Absolutely. And so that's why it's so critical. It's so critical to make sure that in those first few seconds somebody spends on your website, you are delivering the type of content that they're looking for in the context that will make it easiest for them to consume.
There you go.
And so again, that your head could just like be spinning and spinning and spinning, but you're like, what the hell is Chris talking about right here? But this all boils down to the concept of A/B testing. You talked about subconscious user experience, and this is a really, really interesting area of digital marketing. So Harvard did a study just on purchasing decisions in general, and Harvard found that about 93% of a purchase decision is subconscious.
Ooh.
So what does that mean? That means that if I ask somebody why they bought a product from my site, I'm only going to get the 7% that they were aware of. And so I personally think that like surveys and polls are largely a waste of time because you're not getting to the meat of the issue. Because people don't know. Like if I feel safe on a website, how do I even know that? How do I communicate that? Or if I left a website because it bothered me, like I don't know why it bothered me. I might tell you it's because, I don't think that they had the product I was looking for. When in reality it was, I got there, I didn't feel safe, and I didn't have the right context. I just didn't feel like it was what I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, right? a square box right next to a rounded corner box. Honestly, it's thematic challenge. It's thematic dissonance, and you're not going to know that, but you're going to know that you don't like that. So literally, you're absolutely right. Is that conversion rate optimization is the only true way to understand what your consumers are liking, because they're not going to know how to articulate some of those things. And on top of that, maybe they don't even want to share that. You know, I really didn't like that square box. I mean, but it's infantile. Some of these things are base. Safe feeling, these concepts of warmth and what have you cannot be verbalized. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I would never say, I bought from this website because they had a green button. Yep. I'm going to say, I bought from this website because whatever. I mean, they had a lot of reviews. Like that might be the only thing that I'm aware of that influenced my decision, when it's really one of 100 different factors.
Absolutely. I want to swing back. I didn't want to lose track, but your fifth point that you're talking about at your speech there.
Yeah. So the final thing that we talked about was mobile, and mobile is probably the most under tested part of the web. And I say that because most websites, when you look at them and ask, well, how did you create the mobile version of your site? It's, I took the desktop version and I shrunk it down for mobile.
And it's a skyscraper. It's a 9-story skyscraper. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And that is not what people are looking for on mobile these days. I mean, people spend so much time on their mobile devices. We have all been to multiple websites that have just had a heinous, phenomenally awful mobile experience, and it pisses you off.
Yeah, it does.
And you don't want to be the kind of site, even if people will still bear with you through the awful experience and still buy your product. You don't want to provide that kind of experience because it doesn't make people want to come back. It doesn't want to make people refer them to you. So we talked about how to really customize your mobile experience. What do people want on mobile that's different than desktop? Do they want less content? Chances are they probably do.
Yep.
Do they want a different call to action? Chances are they probably want a different call to action. Do they want smaller image sizes? And maybe they don't even want video, because guess what? Video really slows down load times on mobile. And so maybe you need to strip down your desktop site and give them a really straightforward to the point website on mobile. But anyways, I mean, that's a variety of different things to look at. But what I recommend for people, if you're feeling overwhelmed with all these different possibilities in A/B testing, and you go, oh my gosh, Chris just mentioned 6 different areas, and within each of those areas, he was throwing out 2 to 3 or 4 different ideas of things I could test. I typically suggest just pick one area. Say, I'm going to test the call to actions on my site, and just go for it. Because if you haven't done any testing before, you don't even know what's going to have the biggest impact. But it's going to be one of those 6 things. And so you just roll the dice at first and say, I'm going to start testing my call to actions. if I see a huge positive impact, I'm going to keep testing it.
Right.
If it doesn't work, then I'm going to move on and I'm going to start testing my value propositions. And eventually you will test your way through your entire website.
Absolutely. And don't give up. Don't stop at one area. You need to go through and, how do we take it? How do we eat an elephant one bite at a time? Don't get mired in all the possibilities. It is crazy to be able to see all the different variations. Even when we were talking about one of the news stories today, all the different variable testing with headlines, right? There's so many variations, but start with a hypothesis and test one thing. Absolutely. Chris, I bet you're a mobile first design advocate, right?
Not always. No? So it really just depends on what your majority traffic source is. So, if you get more than 50% mobile traffic, then yes, you should design mobile first. But a lot of sites don't, especially people in the B2B space.
Absolutely.
B2B traffic is probably going to be 90% desktop. And so it would be stupid. It would be a mistake to design for mobile first.
All right. It's all about the data, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, speaking of data, what bugs you about your industry right now?
It's really interesting. So because I'm in a very, very data-driven industry and it's has a very heavy analytics focus,
right?
It's very easy for people to become what I call analytics snobs, or they're people that are so focused on data that they don't even think about marketing or psychology or user behavior. And it's like, show me the numbers. If there's not a number associated with this, then what you have to say has no relevance on anything.
Yep.
And so I don't like having a culture of criticizing and critiquing. I do like a healthy feedback and healthy being open for people's critical eye. But I don't like the type of industry where the immediate go-to is to critique and to discard what other people have to say. And so that is one thing that kind of bothers me. And it's not everybody in the industry, but there are a lot of people that have kind of fallen into that.
Yes, there are. And you can't be just isolated in your analytics. You got to have that creative side to it. And if you can't channel it internally, you need to borrow from somebody else, because that gets you out of the box. That gets you into that gem of thought where it disrupts and creates a brand new set of data that you weren't anticipating. You got to be able to shake it up, right?
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, conversely, to wrap up, what excites you about your industry right now?
Oh, man. People are just barely starting. Website testing has been around for... it's been around for at least a decade, if not longer. But it's only been like a real thing for at least a decade. But people are just barely starting to understand the need and importance of website testing. And so one thing that's just very exciting to me right now is people are starting to open their eyes. They're starting to catch the vision of what website testing can do. And I get so excited when I'll talk to a client or I'll talk to a peer that's in the space. I'll talk to another speaker, and they'll just be on fire about the latest test that they ran and how it opened their minds and started expanding their vision to the possibilities of the web.
Yeah.
That is so exciting to me, and that's what honestly keeps me in love with this industry. Is it's a rapidly changing industry, and when you get website testing, when you finally catch the vision of it, it's a beautiful moment. You can see it in somebody's eyes and they go, I get it. This is great. Why haven't I been doing this for 10 years? And so I love seeing that start to happen.
I love the evangelism of conversion rate optimization. We need more of you out there as a clarion call to tell people to test. They've got to test their sites. They've got to test parts of their sites. If that's not part of the lexicon of a digital marketer, it should be, right?
Absolutely.
It's not only on the website; it's also their art. Anything that you're pushing inside of social, any type of SEM that you're doing. It is irrespective of digital tactics. You have to have the testing methodology. Chris, it's been a pleasure talking to you. But this fun fact, I gotta hear literally for our entire audience. This is fantastic. You actually got 3 speeding tickets in a single day.
It was a bad day.
Sounds like it.
I was on a road trip up to do some whitewater rafting, and driving from Utah to Wyoming. And I actually got all 3 of those speeding tickets in 3 different states.
Oh, my Lord.
So I got a speeding ticket like within 30 minutes of jumping on the road here in Utah. I got another speeding ticket in Idaho. Once I got that second speeding ticket, I let someone else in my car drive. I said, screw this, it's ridiculous. I'm not doing this anymore. So I had somebody else drove the rest of the way to Wyoming. We were just down the street from the whitewater rafting location getting gas, and I said, I'll just drive down the street. And I literally jumped on the road, immediately got pulled over, and got another ticket. It was nuts.
Wow. Oh,
so
man.
I did not learn my lesson.
No, evidently not. No. All right, man. That's. I'm sorry that we're enjoying this from your obvious discomfort.
And I bet you never live that down with your friends, right?
Oh, my father-in-law, every time I see him, he says, "You got any tickets on the way up here?" Yeah. So every time.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. To our audience, we certainly recommend that they follow Chris. You can follow him more on his Twitter handle, Chris Dayley. That's Dayley. And on LinkedIn, you can certainly grab a hold of him at Chris Dayley as well. Any final thoughts for our audience about conversion rate testing?
No, you know what? We actually put together a starter guide for people that are wanting to, start testing on their website. And so I thought I'd throw that out there. The starter guide has, best tools to use both for A/B testing and for other things like gathering heat mapping data on your site and other analytics tools. Then we also have kind of some of the first few tests that we recommend. We've got, I think, a few case studies in there of examples to kind of get the juices flowing. And so people can check that out. It's at www.disruptiveadvertising.com/guide.
Absolutely. We have it on the screen there, and we'll have it also in the show notes too.
Absolutely. And so, people can download that. There's also a box that you can check if you're interested in talking with me or somebody at Disruptive. If you don't want to talk to us, you just want the guide, just don't check that box, and you can check out
grab it and go. I love the name of the agency, by the way, Disruptive Advertising. That really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it?
It does. And you know what? The only way to do advertising in today's world is to be disruptive, is to be doing things different than other people and to be challenging the status quo. Because if you're just copying what other people are doing, you're just going to blend into the noise. And it's really hard to stand out in the web today. So you've got to be disruptive. There it
is. Well, thank you so much for your time, Chris. I certainly enjoyed talking with you and learning more about conversion testing. And we applaud your passion in that. We certainly will be watching from afar, and we wish you all the best of luck in the world.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you guys having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
You're more than welcome. Well, thanks to thanks to everybody watching and listening over at edgeofthewebradio.com and all the Facebook fans and Periscope fans. We really appreciate your participation. Thanks to the colleagues over at Site Strategics, as well as our guest Chris Dayley. We couldn't have done it without you, and we certainly would appreciate any type of likes and shares and reviews on our respective properties, because that's how we know we're doing the right thing. So make sure that you check all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter, because Tom's rolling that out every week and it's great information. Go check out edgeofthewebradio.com. Who are we going to be talking to next?
Next week, we're having Eric Inga back on the show to talk AMP.
Sweet!
So I think we'll talk about AMP, but yeah.
Excellent.
Eric Inga.
Oh, man, from
Stone Temple.
Stone Temple. That's awesome. Excellent. So check out everything. Be sure to check out Eric Inga. We certainly want to have your contributions on the live stream. All right, from all of us over at Site Strategics and Edge of the Web, thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week. Do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. Bye-bye.